My name is Benjamin Danielson. I'm a pediatrician. I've worked in the Odessa Brown Children's Clinic for a couple of decades, and now I work at the University of Washington trying to end youth incarceration. I was in college on the East Coast. I was doing some science classes and thinking I'd do something science-like, maybe marine biology or something like that. But I was also working with young people at the same time. And it took me a little while to realize that I could actually do something I really care about, like working with young people, and also challenge my mind by going into medicine and becoming a pediatrician. I do feel like the streets kind of raised me in DC. We moved around a fair amount, but always in DC. And sometimes it was one of those things where you need to leave the apartment really quick before the landlord comes after you, that kind of thing. We slept in cars sometimes. We also had a lot of support and love. And my mom always wanted me to be caring about my education. When I was young, though, I thought I had other ideas. I went to class once, and teacher thought I had a speech problem and wanted to put me into special ed. And I stopped going to school for as long as I could. I kind of snuck in and snuck out and hung out more in the corners than in the classroom. I met some brilliant people, found some brotherhood that was really powerful, found a sense of community at that point then, but also in those same streets were aunties, street moms, like people hanging out on the stoop who were watching me, sometimes looking out for me, mostly scolding me, trying to get me to be a better young person. It's a good question. I don't know that life comes with switches on or off. It's almost always things that happen gradually for you, you know. Realization is sometimes a thing that happens at 3 a.m. while you're sleeping. Other times it happens more slowly and it accumulates or something. And I think that was true for me. I realized at some point I was using more smarts to avoid school and then like get over on the tests than if I just was in school. I got arrested. I had a friend pass in a violent way, and I was starting to listen to some of the aunties on the street a little bit more. My mom was kind of checked out for a while, but these aunties were talking to me, and they became especially concerned. And at one point, I don't think I asked why, but I think they told me anyway, and they said, "You've transitioned from being sort of a cute brown kid to being something that white people are afraid of." And that shook me too, because I was just realizing, I don't know, I lived in Chocolate City. I didn't really think I had to think about that, but she was sort of foreshadowing that I needed to be aware of how the world didn't want someone like me to succeed. And maybe that made me mad enough to want to prove people wrong. I think, especially in the generations-long battle against Americanized racism, the need to have a sense of hope is so important. And I think the idea of cultivating it, like collectively, a collective farm of hope in our communities, a family plot of hope as a personal garden, an individual farmer of hope, those kinds of things are really important. I feel like sometimes it becomes tempting to sit there and expect someone to rescue, or expect something to change in the equation, or think that perhaps that you start to believe when people tell you that you have no power. And when you do that, you're giving up everything to some external force, and including hope. People sometimes just wait. They kind of wait for hope. I'm not going to do anything right now. I'm going to wait till something comes along to re-inspire me. And I think that's something I'd rather hold myself, be responsible for, grow it, because I'm going to need it. Just through good people talking about all of their different ways of conceptualizing that, because I think in some ways um, it kind of blows apart the idea of village and talks about the many different ways that we can walk in the world, we can chase our dreams, be our best selves, and it can be a collective action, and that the collective power is actually greater than any of the individual parts. I also think that I've been really trying to lead a life where I think about what's possible instead of just thinking about the negatives in the world. So I got really good about saying I'm anti-racist. It was a little harder for a while for me to talk about what I was pro, but something like liberation, being pro-liberation, being pro-collective power, that is something that I can understand and hold to, and it's a positive sense, not just the absence of a negative. I do feel we have a lot of work to do. I think our potential is limitless, and we have a lot of work to do. Both those things are true. Personally, I think as part of my profession maybe, but also maybe it's who I am, I think we succeed when we think multi-generationally, when we reconnect generations together, especially like 3 generations together. That's when you start to see a real change start to happen. When you start to actually see young people as sources of wisdom, in addition to people who need to be poured into and need to learn and grow. When you see that exchange is going in both directions, I think that starts to change the way you think about what's possible. And when you think multi-generationally, you also realize there's a longer arc than any one life. There's not a time where we get to a place within a lifespan necessarily, because these things have been coming at us for hundreds of years. So to think about it as multi-generational, to be able to hand over that work to someone else, to be able to know that it's carried on, whether you move into some other space or leave this earthly plane, that makes it permanent. That makes it continue to happen. It doesn't rely on one remarkable you. It relies on an amazing continuing generational us.